now into the pledge. Mr. Barton.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we got some folks who signed up to speak today. Looks like we'll have a little bit of a heftier agenda today as well. So I do know there's some interest in certain projects in this community. So obviously, being mindful of people's time. If someone said something that you concur with, if you could maybe shorten it a little bit. We've got 20-some folks, so we could be here for closer to an hour for public comment. So your cooperation and saying what you need to say, and if anything can be brief, but we appreciate it. We will read everyone here on this list. So we're going to have public comments. If your name is called, please state your name and address for the record. Mr. Reed is going to be our timekeeper. You are given 3 minutes to speak. If you speak on behalf of the group, please specify the group. If you appear to be going over your time, it will be at the chair's discretion. Whether you get more time to finish your thoughts, you will be given a 30-second warning when you're getting close to time, and then you will be given a stop sign to stop. As soon as you start seeing this, I will start telling you to wrap your thoughts up and finish or finish. And eventually, if you have not, we will tell you to have a seat. So moving forward, Ernie, you ready? Yes, sir. All right, we will go on to Doreen Stapleton.
Looking for the clock.
And if you could please make sure the green light's on your thing. Can you talk into the mic and see if it's working?
Testing.
No, push that push button. Now,
Testing.
tuck a little bit closer.
Testing. Nope.
Amanda? No, not that one. Definitely don't use that. That's the laser.
Testing.
There you go.
Sorry.
All right. Sounds good. You can begin.
Thank you to the board. I'd like to encourage the board.
Name and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Doreen Stapleton, 1919 Black Walnut Drive in Ellisville. I'm speaking today on behalf of the application for the Belty's Restaurant in Ellisville. I'd like to encourage the board to give this application a thumbs up. I think we can all agree that at present along the 151 corridor, there's an absence of breakfast opportunities. We currently have the lovely little bakery, Sweet Bliss, and a food truck. They're great for what they do, but neither business really offers a place to sit and linger over coffee and breakfast in any weather with friends and family. Of all the possible activities that could go up in this spot, this enterprise would have to be the most family-friendly one imaginable. Mr. Washburn is part of the team that's already built a well-regarded business, Bold Rock, that physically blends in with its surroundings. Bold Rock isn't just a cidery, it's a meeting place which has hosted memorials, charity auctions, citizen meetings, and on a personal note, my Mahjong group once a month. While there may be a labor shortage in the industry overall, Bold Rock does well enough by its employees to keep their doors open and serve locals and visitors alike. I think it's safe to assume we'll see the same sound business practices at work with this new venture. As for concerns about the particular location, I hear and respect the concern for the neighboring property owner. The good news is that this business will close daily at 2 p.m., so there would be no intrusion on Mrs. Dodd's evenings. Honestly, I can't see a downside to this. As I understand it, the developers are interested in being good neighbors and are willing to install whatever screening is stipulated by the county. The immediate area is not rural. It is already populated by other small businesses, a busy Dollar General store, the credit union, dentist, medical clinic, auto repair shop, and one evening activity, the Italian food restaurant. It makes a lot of sense to offer breakfast in such a centrally located area for work and weekend residents. A second concern regards the supposed historical status of the structure. Please note, there has been no actual federal designation of this house as historic. There's only an application that lists a number of candidates, including this address. That application was submitted I suspect, without informing or seeking the consent of the owner. I'm one of many local residents who've been driving past this structure daily for 18 years now,
30 seconds.
waiting to see if it's collapsed or caught fire. It's a shambles, it's uninhabitable, and it doesn't enhance the appearance of the neighborhood. There are cows there already, although they've been spotted on the porch. I'm confident that Belty's project would be an improvement over the current dangerous and asbestos-laden building. There's a groundswell of support for this. It's a change, no doubt, but it'd be
Please finish your thoughts.
well-managed change by someone who wants to build a sense of community. We're not looking at a franchise here, folks. We're looking at a genuinely localized, one-of-a-kind endeavor. How wonderful. I encourage you to consider this application.
Thank you. If we could hold applauses so that we can expedite this public hearing. Steve Bain, 620 Arnon. I hope I said it right this time. B-A-Y-N-E.
You got it right.
All right.
Thank you, Sharon. Steve Bain, 620 Farnham Pine, Nelliesburg. Board of Supervisors, please deny the SUP for the restaurant Nelliesburg for the following reasons. Number one, aqua water utility services should not be brought under Route 151 stipulated in the proposed SUP. Doing so would open up commercial development on that side of Route 151, which is all currently zoned residential and/or agricultural, and all within the South Rockfish Valley Rural Historic District. Two, there should be no commercial development on that side of Route 151 unless directed as such in the new comprehensive plan. Per the existing comprehensive plan, that site of Route 151 is and is to remain a mix of residential and agricultural land. Three, a drive-through restaurant is a fast food restaurant and should not be permitted as it would adversely change completely the character of the Nelliesburg Town Center. A fast food restaurant with a drive-through would double the number of parking spaces required. Such numbers are not included in the proposed SUP and would further adversely change the character of the Nelliesburg Town Center. As number four, as is well known, the proposed SUP use would bring major hardship to Mrs. Linda Dodd, whose home is an immediate neighboring property. Furthermore, the proposed SUP use would adversely affect the use of all neighboring property. I attended the November meeting in which the owner stated to the Board of Supervisors that Mrs. Dodd was in agreement with his plan. Well, we now know that that is not the case. That is not true. I'm frankly disgusted by the fact that the owner would do anything or say anything, particularly to a governmental body, just to get what he wants. Five, the proposed SUP use would result in the destruction of the current property, which is cited for historic importance within the South Rockfish Valley Rural Historic District. And finally, 6,
30 seconds.
there are multiple inconsistencies in the SUP application process, as have been discussed previously. It is important for the owner to be held accountable. In accordance with the Nelson County Comprehensive Plan, this is in summary, we must protect the character and development pattern of the Nelliesburg Town Center, protect the uses permitted by right in the zoning district, protect historically important properties, and protect against bringing hardship to Mrs. Dodd and adversely
Please finish your thoughts.
the neighboring properties. Please deny this request. Thank you.
All right, Paul Davis.
How you guys doing? Paul Davis, 2514 Rockfish Valley Highway, Nelliesburg. I've attended both the meetings pertaining to this project at the Planning Commission and at the last board meeting and expressed my concerns. I've either contacted by email or by phone each of you. At times, I just want to say, instead of rehashing what I said before, at times I think when governments make decisions, which is going on here today, people can become overlooked. Plans, pictures, cost, water, sewage, building types, livestock, whatever, becomes priorities. People or neighbors or just adjacent property owners, and their concerns appear to not be looked at equally. Most can't compete financially with legal arguments against the business sides involved. They often feel helpless. This particular plan impacts Mrs. Dodd the most. And in fact, she's here today. She's a real person. She's sitting right there. And she wrote a letter today she wrote Sunday to give it to you guys about how she still feels about this. This particular plan impacts Mrs. Dodd the most. I've given you a short letter she wrote Sunday. She's here today because you all need to see the person that's impacted the most. She's lived at her current residence over 40 years, and regardless of what some others have said, she still would prefer the property remain as is without a parking lot beside her home. She did agree to trees, but let me tell you how that took place. It's if you're given a question, if this was to happen, what would you want? And she said, if this was to take place, I would want trees, but her overall goal is to leave it as is. And to her other main concern, which no one can address, we're not qualified for probably, is what will it do to her property values? Simply because she's scared that later on in life, medical issues may overtake and she may need to use their home for expenses that she don't know right now that may be coming in the future. That's her other concern, is who would buy a home with the parking lot right up beside it, and how would it impact her value? And then the only ones that would buy it possibly would be another business owner, and she definitely does not want the home she lived in for over 40 years to be demolished. My understanding about the comprehensive plan is just what's already been said. It's to keep development on the other side of Route 151. It has to be established, start and stop somewhere for business and residential. And currently, from the bridge at Adile all the way around that curve going down to that brick historic home, it's remained the same, agricultural, residential. The water and sewage is on the other side of 151. There's a new business that just came up there. I think it's like a treatment, some kind of housing title search company or something. Septic is a problem on this side of 151, and that's been a problem. What are we to gain by this preservation of the side of Route 151? We keep in line with the current comprehensive plan. We allow an elderly widow lady to enjoy her home for the remaining few years without having to look out and see a window with a parking lot right beside her. This plan is geared for tourists, barn-style buildings similar to Bull Rock, ham biscuits, penned-in livestock. You need to ask yourself, just as Mrs. Dodd, excuse me.
Finish your thoughts.
Okay, thank you. You need to just ask yourself, just like Mrs. Dodd asked John in her home at his last visit, John, if you were me, what would you do? If you or your family member lived at Mrs. Dodd's current residence, would you want this project to move forward? We all forget the human element here, and we have to keep in mind, even those that are in favor of this project. So it may sound good, if it was beside your house, would you want it? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mysteria, you're off. Okay, David Clayton.
David Clayton, 215 Rhodes Valley Drive, Nellisburg. I'm somewhat ambivalent about a breakfast coffee spot in Nellisburg. However, I have one caveat that I would like to present for your thoughts, and that is a drive-through. I think any business that has a drive-through these days needs to consider the effects on our climate. Maybe we don't think about that enough, but when you see a number of cars sitting in a drive-through with their exhaust pipes spewing hydrocarbons into the air, it makes you think this is contributing to climate change in our time. And if we add to that, I think we're going to be complicit in what will happen to our Earth. So that is my one caveat. A breakfast coffee shop might be a great thing, but hopefully without a drive-through. Realize there are business considerations that speak to that, and that it would be economically feasible, but perhaps there are some compromises or alternatives that might be considered. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, sir. Someone's phone is going off. If we could address that real quick. Who's watching? There we go. Great. Sorry about that interruption. Nancy Kerr.
Nancy Kern, 33 Lakeside Close, Nellisburg. I am in favor of this proposed business. I'm a breakfast lover. I also ran a breakfast place called the Java Depot that was over across from Devil's Backbone for about 1.5 years until I had some personal issues that I had to close it. Someone tried to revive that business again as a Summit as a breakfast place, and again, there were some personal issues, and both those breakfast places have had to close. I haven't talked to anybody until today that may not want a breakfast place in Nellie's Ford. Everybody's just, open up another Java Depot, please. I work the pancake breakfast at the Rockfish Valley Community Center once a month. People for breakfast get together and it's a real community thing. It was at my restaurant. It is at the pancake breakfast. It is where people meet and greet, and it's not alcohol. I don't drink. I go to a lot of the alcohol places, but we really need a breakfast place. And it's not like this is a new thing. We've had breakfast places, my breakfast place before, so it's just changing location. Please vote in favor of the proposed restaurant. Thank you.
Vicki Sample?
I'm gonna go ahead and pass since I would be a repeat
Okay.
for the 4 part.
Okay. James White?
Thank you. James White, 38 Barnell, Nellis Ford. I've lived here 20 years. I've seen problems come and go with new development, but in this case, there's a need. I have a very large family. When they come to visit on the weekends, and they want to go out to breakfast, there's no place to go. So I looked at the plans for this restaurant, and I said, you know what, that would be ideal. As far as the infrastructure problems and so forth, those can always be worked out, and they always have been worked out for new development, not just in Nelson County, but everywhere. So I speak in favor of this restaurant, and I would appreciate your approving it. Thank you.
Callie Moser?
Hi, good afternoon. Kelly Moser, 181 Graywoods Lane, Nellies Ford. I am also in agreement with this restaurant. We do not have a breakfast place. We don't have anywhere to go as a community in the morning, and it would be very nice. And whatever John gets his hands on is always nice. It's clean, it's well taken care of, and it's in favor of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie Groves?
Hello, my name's Susie, 877 Glenthorne Loop, Nellies Ford. I'm right around the corner from Bull Rock, and I'm in favor of this project. I am Silver Fox Lavender Farm, and I have customers come all the time, and they're always asking if I was gonna open a breakfast place, have coffee, or a place for people to gather. And that's just not my genre, so I do weddings and parties, but I know anything that Mr. Washburn does is first rate, and I really do hope that you highly consider having this put in, because I think it would be great for our community and for people visiting. Thank you.
Okay. Robert? Is Ryder or Ridden? You live at 201 Graywoods Lane.
Robert Ritter, 201 Graywoods Lane. I'm also in favor of the restaurant. Same reasons, we live nearby, and we have people visit, family and friends, and people need a place to go for breakfast. And once again, everything that John has done with Old Rock has been first rate, and we just feel like it would be a great place. So we're in favor. Thank you.
Mark Moser?
Hi, folks. My name is Mark Moser. I live at 181 Great Winds Lane. I am 100% in favor of John opening up this new endeavor. He's done 100% of great work in the area. He's employed a whole lot of people. He's gone first class with everything he's done. I've known him for over 10 years. And there is no place in Nelly's Ford for breakfast right at this point. And what he's proposed looks excellent, and I hope he has good luck in doing everything for it. Thank you.
Pamela Ridden?
I'm Pam Ritter at 201 Great Winds Lane. I am in favor of the restaurant, but this is the very first time I've ever been to a Board of Supervisors meeting. And I did hear, I believe, a member of the Dodd family speak about somebody's home that would be affected by the parking lot that would be in front of her home. So if this would go forward, my wish would be something to make it nicer for her to have that building in front of her home. Is this the way I'm supposed to speak?
You're doing a good job.
Okay, and that's all but I'm in favor, but I'm also in favor of doing something for Mrs. Dodd. Okay.
Right. Okay. Judy?
I'm a business owner of Giuseppe's Restaurant. I've been serving the community for over 15 years. This is a family business that works very hard to provide for our families. We were previously owned by Todd of Stony Creek Auto. This gentleman has acted behind our backs with just acknowledging that he will join in helping to build the restaurant. After 2 years, we have purchased the restaurant from him. Plus, that area does not have the capability to sustain the traffic. Plus, his trucks are already coming through my parking lot, which will affect the local area of our neighbors and causing traffic congestion. And also, it is not respectable towards Mrs. Dodd, who has been there for many years, and we should respect our elders. Second of all, I do not also approve of this because it would affect our business, because you could say just breakfast for right now, but then what about later? Oh, we'll just do lunch and we'll do dinner as well. So, you know what? I don't trust this situation. Thank you.
Ann Landry?
Ann Landry, 21 Black Walnut Drive. Building a drive-through fast food restaurant on that side of 151 and Agile Road, in line with all residential homes, is totally against our current comprehensive plan. In all of the new comprehensive plan, don't think of that. In all of the new comprehensive plan workshops, a majority of respondents agree on several points. They most value Nelson's natural environment, rural character, and open spaces. And they're most concerned about development and population growth and the loss of natural resources. I don't know if any of you were on the board in 2015, but the sporting goods store was denied by the Board of Supervisors on 151 in that same residential stretch for the following reasons. One, putting businesses next to residential homes affecting quality of life. Two, historical district adverse effects. Three, not following the existing comprehensive plan. Mr. Washburn has not been truthful in his push to get the SUP approved. He told you VDOT would not allow any further commercial entrances on that stretch of 151. Daniel Brown of VDOT confirmed to me, Ernie, Dylan, and Candy that VDOT did not say such a thing and would grant permits for commercial entrances for any parcel on that stretch if they met VDOT's conditions.
Mr. Washburn wants the Board of Supervisors to believe he is not opening up that stretch from A Dial to just past Monacan Drive for commercial development in Nelly's Ford. But if you grant this up, it will become a free-for-all as other residential or A1 owners ask for SUPs or rezoning to cash in on this change of character in Nelly's Ford. Where does it stop? Mr. Washburn has not been truthful about Mrs. Dodd approving the fast food drive-through. He has mysteriously hidden his third partner, who also owns the land, Troy Campbell, who was not listed on the SUP application, and I believe that's against the rules. The other partner, Scott DeFusco, swears to the Wintergreen people, everyone over here who approves, this rare Victorian 1910 house is not in the South Rockfish Valley Rural Historic District, when it most certainly is. The historic district designation is truthful. You were presented with evidence via email by me and by Andy Wright of the Nelson Historical Society. No matter who wants to believe what, they're just not in the know. Lastly, Mr. Washburn says he is only required to have 26 parking spaces when 52 spaces are required by county ordinances for a fast food restaurant. He has 26 feet of open space, and it's on his site plan. And as for the people of Wintergreen who say they need a place to get breakfast and lunch, that's not true. We have Graves, Lydia Lester's Food Court, Sweet Bliss Bakery, all serve breakfast and lunch. Giuseppe serves lunch. Every local, including all the workers, knows this. I guess the Wintergreen people don't get out. Thank you.
William Wallace.
I'm William Wallace. I live at 103 Waters Edge Lane, Nelly's Ford. I'm for the restaurant. It's a simple addition to our community, and it sets a standard for our community. We have a variety of architectural designs through Nelly's Ford, but when you go to the far end of 151 where Devil's Backbone is, then you see Old Rock. Those are all mixed with the historic and natural pace of Nelly's Ford. And that's what we want to keep in mind. I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't have this place. Whether you want breakfast or you don't, it'll bring money in to Nelson County and bring people into Nelson County, which in order to survive in today's business, you have to grow. And this isn't some giant flash and light place. I think John has put his thoughts together, and a restaurant place there, looking at the Blue Ridge, is a nice item. And there are other commercial properties on that side of the road. Thank you.
Sir. Mr. Washburn, did you want to just, you're in the applicant, you'll probably be called to talk.
Yeah,
Later. All right.
Yeah.
Francesca Flood.
Noah Flood, and on behalf of myself and Francesca Flood, my wife, we're at 1590 Crawford's Climb, and we do support the restaurant. We do ask that the board give consideration to concerns of Ms. Dow and any mitigation that can be used to address those concerns, I think would be appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Frank Clark.
Okay.
All right. Donna Small.
Donna Small, Nellis Ford. I'm not opposed to development in the community of Nellis Ford, but I am opposed to changes that are not sympathetic to the nearby residential property. Most of them supporting it have
protection that Ms. Dodd doesn't have. Most of their neighbors can't even put a fence, or, like a swing set in their yard. This is the only residential left, that section in Nellis Ford. If you follow the comprehensive plan, new development should be on the other side of 151. Plus, the comprehensive plan says parking lots should be away from the neighborhood. Allowing this sewer hookup will open up development if it goes with Aqua. And then I think fast food and drive-through should not be in A1 district. I think this will be the first. This could be why we have a comprehensive plan to go by, to try to protect people like Ms. Don and residential neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you. Dave Landry?
Dave Landry, 21 Black Walnut. First off, I'm surprised a lot of people don't have kitchens, but I have no trouble finding those. So anyway, to be serious. I'm aware board members have gotten a lot of calls and messages from owners of Wintergreen Homes in support of the fast food restaurant. I wonder if you're aware of their true sentiments. There's a Facebook group for Wintergreen owners where they slam the natives in Nelson County. That group includes some of the previous speakers. For example, one person wrote, quote, "I think this is more a referendum on the community, those who welcome change and those who do not want change and wish to keep the charm of a rural and impoverished community." And he put charm in quotes like he's being sarcastic, that his view of an impoverished community is charming. Anyway, so others in the group agreed with him, and no one else other than my wife challenged him on that attitude towards the county. I'll offer a printed screenshot of this to the board since you want to see it, if you want to see it. I was taught when I was young to respect others' homes and their customs when in their homes. And this isn't limited to structures, it also applies to communities. This does not seem to be something that many other Wintergreen homeowners have learned. They seem to think that Nelson is for the newcomers who know better how to manage it. And if native locals don't like it, they should just move away from their homes. They should be ashamed, and the board should keep this in mind when considering their opinions. Thank you.
Okay. If you could give that to Candy so they can make the necessary notations they need to. That is all who I have who've signed up. However, we still have an opportunity for you to speak if you did not make it on the list. Anybody want? Yeah, that's fair. I was about to mention if you wanted to hop in. Anybody else after that? Just have. Okay.
Frank Mark, 27 Ray Street, Robinson. I'm here about a situation that happened in this parade. I would like to know, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to move forward to make sure it doesn't happen again? And that's all I have to say.
All right. Anyone else wish to speak this time? Anyone else? Hearing none, we will close the public comment section for meeting so far. Moving on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, or can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? We have a motion from Mr. Parr. Is there a second? I'll second. Second from Mr. Reed. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do a vote by acclamation. All those in favor say aye. Abstentions, objections, hearing none. Moving on to presentations, VDOT report. I had spoken to Robert since we had a healthy crowd here today. He said he had some things he needed to get done. If we had any comments, we could forward along to him. The only notation he had was referencing a road in Afton, I think it was, Amanda. Do you remember? Okay. Yeah, he's going to shoot us an email on that. So any other comments, please correspond with Amanda or Robert directly for this month. Moving on to,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting. If I may, could we have Ms. Dayton introduce our new emergency services
Yes,
coordinator?
please. Sorry.
Mr. John Atkins. Thank you.
Real quick. New employee, well, new but back. Right, John?
Hi, board members today. Thank you all so much. I'd like for you to help me to welcome Mr. John Atkins back to our Nelson County Emergency Services Center. He is now the new coordinator. John comes to us with nearly 40 years in public safety, starting as a teenager in the volunteer fire department as a volunteer firefighter. I will not let you guess his age. So with that, moving forward, once he had gotten a little bit older, he served in the Charlottesville, Albemarle, and UVA Public Safety Communications Office as Emergency Communications Center dispatcher from 1990 to 1998. Then with the Nelson County Emergency Communications Center from 1999 to 1919, where he rose to Senior Communications Officer status. He then went back to the Charlottesville, Albemarle, UVA Emergency Communications Center from 2019 to 2022, where during that time he also obtained his Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice and Homeland Security. Mr. Atkins has achieved extensive training and experience in current technical and response programming. He has long-standing professional contacts inside and outside the community that are essential to being successful as an emergency services coordinator in our Nelson County Emergency Communications Center. He excels in responding to and coordinating the response teams to all emergency situations. And I'd like you to help me welcome him back to Nelson County as our new coordinator of the Communications Center.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to where we were with drug court implementation. As soon as Commonwealth attorneys.
Not Jeffrey Java. Daniel Rutherford, Commonwealth attorney here in Nelson County, and with my senior assistant, Will Flory. And I just want to kind of give an update that we're moving forward with drug court. We've had the funds accepted, working closely with Ms. McGarry, and then now we're working on the MOUs, making sure that we have everything in line between the County of Nelson and OAR, who will be servicing and providing a full-time drug court coordinator. So we're just presenting on those bits, and I'll turn it over from Will on kind of the nuts and bolts.
So I just want to thank you very much for the opportunity. I just want to give you guys a very brief update. As you all well know, we received the grant funding back in the fall of the year. And the way that this is going to work mechanically is that grant funding is going to provide for the full-time salary of the drug court coordinator position. That is going to be a full-time person whose job it is essentially to be not only the primary probation officer for the participants in drug court, but also the person who does all of the sort of associated technical tasks, including the grant monitoring and various other administrative tasks that are related to drug court. So that is the way that this has worked with other jurisdictions. And after some discussion with Ms. McGarry and OAR, we concluded that we thought that the best way for this to operate moving forward was for OAR to actually employ that person. They have both the technical know-how to hire and support a professional probation officer, as well as maintain professional credentials and all the sort of things that they do that we are not necessarily equipped to do in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. So in order to accomplish that, obviously the county is the recipient of the grant funds. We've got to enter into a MOU between our office, the county, and OAR. And so we are sort of waiting to hear back from OAR on some of their feedback to get the MOU done. We hope to have the MOU done hopefully in the coming weeks. Obviously, as I mentioned, after we first came before you all to present about drug court, the big challenge here, particularly right now, is going to be hiring someone. And so it's hard to say how long that's going to take us. Obviously, we hope it will be done, have somebody hired in the next 2 or 3 months. I think when the first time I presented in front of the board, my aspirational goal is for us to open our doors on January 1st, 2023. I think we're going to miss that deadline by just a little bit, or that goal by just a little bit, but we hope to, now having the funding in place, we hope to begin accepting applicants to the drug court sometime in the early spring once we get all of the sort of technical details sorted out. So.
Any questions from the board?
the person that we're employing, will this be just for Nelson County?
That's correct. And I've actually discussed extensively with OAR. We really want to have that person located here in Nelson County full time. So a lot of their relationship with their probation officers is that they have offices in Charlottesville and travel to and from their jurisdictions. And we've made it clear that we want that person to be here full time serving the community.
Are there any requirements in terms of this position? Like bachelor's or a degree in criminal justice?
So we're going to sort of defer to OAR when they set the preconditions for that position, because as I mentioned, they're much better situated to make those decisions. That's sort of what they do, is employ professional probation officers. I am going to be on the hiring committee for that person. And, you know, one of the things that we're going to emphasize is experience in probation. Because, you know, this is a person who's going to drug screen these folks 3 times a week, interact with them extensively. And so having somebody that has a background in professional probation, I think, is going to be key.
And OAR is?
Offender aid and restoration. So they are the Jefferson area. I'm going to totally screw up. They're our community-based probation agency. OAR is the shorthand. And the name just simply escapes me right at the moment, but they're based in Charlottesville. They provide all of our community-based probation, so that's felony, pretrial probation, and misdemeanor probation supervision right now.
And what's their jurisdiction?
So they currently serve Green, Fluvanna, Orange, Madison, Charlottesville, and Nelson. Did I miss any there? That's who they currently serve.
They've been in operation for at least 40 years.
And so the money for the grant will go directly to OAR for the position?
Yes.
How long is that position funded?
4 years.
4 years.
Jefferson Area Community Corrections is the name of the corporation. They go OAR, Offender Aid and Restoration, so that flow.
Any other questions? Thank you, guys.
Thank you to the members of the board.
All right, moving on to Java, Ginger Dillard. Oh, Marta. Nice to see you again.
Good afternoon, it's great to be here with you all.
As you can see, I'm not Ginger Dillard, I'm Marta Kane, CEO of Java. Click away. And Ginger was sick, and so I jumped at the opportunity to come and spend time with you all today. I'm excited to give you some updates on what's been going on. Wanted to let you know, and you probably do, that you all have the largest percentage of population over 60, about 30% of the population in Nelson, and that's growing. And many of those are people who live alone, and there are fewer people in the in-between ages to help provide support. So it's really important, and we appreciate the support you all give us. Last year, we served approximately 1,000 people in Nelson County, and we hope to continue to, whoops, I turn that off, to support more as we move along. And let's see if I can coordinate papers and clickers and everything. So what I wanted to share with you today was what our clients thought of the services that we're providing, so that you have confidence that we're doing a good job, and also it's an overview of what kinds of services we do have. So we have what we call the senior helpline. It's information and assistance. We now have a toll-free number as well, so if people are out of the 434 area, they have a way to get us without any cost, because not everybody has a cell phone. But as you can see, people feel very satisfied. This is the kind of triage. When you call there, they refer you to the right place in Java, or answer your question, or tell you what other agency exists that can help you. Whoops. Aging Service Coordinator, starting this week, we have a new person named Adonis. So how can you go wrong with a name like that? I'm sure everyone's going to remember that. He'll be working out of the Nelson Center, and you can see that generally our aging service coordinators have a very good satisfaction. You keep working with people until they do feel like they've been helped. Volunteer services is an important piece, and we have a lot of people in Nelson who do offer volunteering. And the volunteers tell us that really helps them feel connected to the community and feel like they're engaged in making a difference. And they're important to us for doing that, but also as capacity building for us. As you can see, that number at the bottom, 677 volunteers, with all the hours that they give us, is almost $400,000 in replacing where we have to have staff, and we can have volunteers help us expand what we can do and keep us as efficient as we can with what we ask of you. Fish is one of the types of ways we volunteer. We have mentors that work with students in the schools, and during COVID, they worked with students online, and they still do some of that. Teachers and families feel really good about it. The mentors feel good about it. And it's really helped the students. As you can see, 80% of students have had improvement in their social skills, their confidence, enthusiasm. So as you can see, it's not necessarily tutoring so much as mentoring. Another thing that we have based out of the Nelson Center is health services. We do monitoring of some vitals, and again, 92 to 98% satisfaction. We're very excited with the new grant that the Nelson Community Alliance received. We'll be collaborating with them. We've had a couple of meetings to talk about the ways in which we can help assist them and actually hire some of the community health workers after they train them. So I think it's going to be a really nice collaboration that we'll have going forward. Chronic disease self-management. You might have had Danny Harris come and talk to you about this before, I'm not sure. He is our manager for that, as well as the manager of the community center. This is a really important program. We know that more and more people are aging with chronic diseases. And so one of the things, this is an evidence-based program. And so as you can see, 73% of the people who complete the 6 classes are more motivated to take care of their health. And what the Stanford program finds is that for a year and a half after the classes, that's fewer ER visits and fewer hospital visits. Maybe more doctor visits, which is the more proactive way to go about managing your health. And so we run these classes in person or virtual, and we have general chronic disease, we do diabetes management, and then pain management. So you certainly all know about our community center at the Nelson Center. I'll highlight for you what Nelson's seniors think. They all like the taste of the meals. Now that 62% I find fun, only because what it's actually saying is the nutrition important to the member? Not is it nutritional, it's whether they care. And they don't really care. They want it to taste good. So, but we have to ask it. That's one of those things the state wants us to ask. As you can see, they're kind of in the middle. There's some others that care and some others that care less. So, but that's it. But after that, they enjoy coming to the center. Most of them enjoy participating with the health and wellness, things like the exercise classes. And they all enjoy activities in connection. And as a matter of fact, Danny couldn't join me today because they're coming back from their bus trip down to Walmart in Lynchburg. So they do enjoy different activities and getting out. And so many of them love going to the center that as we run a 3rd day in Faber, almost all of the attendees are people from the Livingston Center that go there so they can have a 3rd day when we offer that. So we know that they take every opportunity to participate with us. All right. So during COVID,
we had to do a lot of pivoting to say, how can we keep making people feel connected? And so one of the things we did was to create a program called At Home with Java. And it started with a conference called Bingo. Something that I certainly wouldn't have come up with, but our staff did. It was a way to give our members a conference call number, send them out bingo cards, and then we did bingo by phone. And one day, I'm not sure if Supervisor Reed was on this call, it may have been before he came on. We unfortunately booked our board meeting on the same conference call line as the bingo. And people kept coming on and they weren't getting off. They were not happy about that at all. So we know it was a big hit. But we went from that to trivia, to having triad groups with the sheriff's department come on and talk about scams. We did some Zoom because some people have access. We had some seated Tai Chi. We had a little 10-year-old who told jokes for 10 minutes every week. There was a lot of different things going on. And so we mail out, as you can see, a lot of activity packets and information. We have a lot of activities that we offer. Every day's got things going on. A lot of the people who go to the center go home and then get on a program in the afternoon. And so we're looking to grow the numbers that are aware of At Home so that you have another choice. If you don't want to, if you're not someone who wants to be a joiner, you have another way to continue to feel engaged. And we've just signed up for ShareBridge, which is a way to offer different educational classes that people can come on, sign on, and listen to when they want to, and it'll be free to all of our seniors. They'll just get a passcode from us. So we're very excited about that. And we're setting up computers at the Nelson Center that people could come in and get the password from us and use the computer. If they need help, we can help them. And if they don't have a computer or internet at home, it's a way for them, because as you know, so many things these days, you have to do it online. You don't have a choice any other way. Home delivered meals, 85% of the people are happy with that. That's a program that we have through a company in Iowa, actually, who ships flash fresh meals 2 weeks at a time. And it's a special setup with FedEx that they check on the person, they bring it inside so that it's a way to keep your eye. And then we set those people that would like up with friendly callers as well. So it's a different sort of approach to Meals on Wheels, especially in an area like this where it's rural and it would be hard to have people that could commit to making those deliveries. And it's an important way to keep people getting nutritious meals and ensure that it's easy for them to take care of that. Insurance counseling. We do a lot of helping people get started with Medicare. We've been told that UVA tells everybody when they retire that they aren't even going to talk to them about Medicare, just come to Java. So that's great news. I figure that's a good sign. We're unbiased, we're not paid by anybody, and we help people. So about 50 people a week come to us for that. Last week we ended the Part D. If any of you have had the fun of helping anybody sign up for the correct Part D prescription plan through Medicare, you know that it's a nightmare. So we've been able to help people. This year we doubled what we had been seeing during COVID. We had a combination of walk-in as well as on computers in each of the centers or from people's homes. We had computers at Livingston and also at Tuckahoe Community Center so that there would be better access. I don't have the breakdown by county yet, but I do know that all of it together, we saw about 2,300 people in 8 weeks. And by the time we helped them get it on the right plan, we saved them $1.6 million. And although that sounds like a Geico ad, it really means that people are not having to split their prescriptions in half or choose not to fill them when you get the right savings and people can afford it. And you can see people, that's on a 4-point scale because of course our manager for insurance counseling has to do things differently. And so you can see 3.98 out of 4 is a pretty high rating for insurance counseling. We also have the Adult Care Center, and we've renamed it Big Respite and Enrichment Center. We feel that's a much better statement of what they actually do. Respite for the caregiver and enrichment for our members. When we asked the family members how they feel about, again, on a 4-point scale, you can see that there's really high numbers. The lowest one, number 4, many of the family members said we don't expect to see improvement. We know that with people with dementia, there's going to be a decline. And so we know that that's going to be a lower number. One of the more informal things we asked was, how does the members' mood? And 70% say the mood is much better after they've spent the day with us. One gentleman told us that his wife came out every day very excited and telling him all about the program. And then the next morning, she would be not wanting to go because she didn't remember it. But once she gets there, she has a good time. So we're glad that we have that being offered. And then this year we added dementia care coordinators who are started with helping with the members at the community center, at the rec centers, and now we'll be working with anybody in the community, helping families better understand how they can improve what, as things change, what they can do to keep their loved one doing as well as they can and finding the things that work for them. And that really is it. I'll entertain any questions. I didn't want to take up a lot of your time. Your agenda's pretty full, but I appreciate the chance to talk to you today.
Any questions for Margaret at this time?
Yeah.
All right.
My wife had a form of dementia, and I took care of her for 7 years. And she died in age 17. And after that, I went to the Job Center because I was interested and concerned about the help that people need with dementia. And what I was doing was stopped by COVID and everything. Are you happy with the progress Job has made with dementia and offering services?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, Supervisor Barton, and I would encourage you to please come back to Hillsdale with the addition of the dementia coordinator and then a specific activities coordinator who has worked with people with dementia. So the activities are much more person-centered. I do feel like we have a much stronger program. We've been doing a lot more training and sending our CNAs even to training so they better understand it. Because I do think that as we get more people and we are learning so much more about different forms of dementia, it's not one size fits all. And so we really need to have enough staff that we can spend the time figuring out what works perhaps for one member is not necessarily going to work for the other 3 sitting at the table.
What I experienced when I was going through it was there was a lot of concern about the caregiver. But it was clear to me, being a caregiver, the caregiver felt much better when the patient had things that interested them, and the emphasis I think that people have missed in terms of caring with people with this problem is that the person who's ill, their state of mind determines the state of mind of the person who takes care of them.
Absolutely.
But that idea has been missed in many places.
Yes, and I think as we get better studies, and certainly as I see the way our staff is, I completely agree with you that you really have to be in their place with them. And that's part of what our dementia coordinators help with is how to find out what are the things they still can do, what are the things that have meaning to them, and it is very different. We had one woman who one day we were doing a painting exercise and she did a beautiful job and her daughter came in and cried. She said that her mom hadn't picked up a paintbrush in 20 years. But in that setting, she started painting and really enjoyed it. So I think that's always a challenge, and yet the wonderful part of it is when we have a small enough ratio, we can actually spend that time. And you're right, then it carries over to that improved mood, and it lets the caregiver actually have their relationship back, because I think that's one of the hardest things, is having the relationship of spouse or child kind of stolen by having to be the caregiver. And so if we can help that a little bit, that just makes life so much better for both people.
Okay, we have a full agenda, so any other questions real quick, Marta?
Yes. First of all, Marta, thanks for coming. You know, Ginger's great, but having you here, as you mentioned, to the information that we wouldn't have otherwise. Thank you for taking the time. I love serving on the JAWA board, and I attended the staff meeting last week and a half ago, and was just amazed at the quality of the people there and their positive attitudes, and the program that you set up, that y'all set up for everybody, was fabulous. But you didn't talk about the webinar on the missing housing for age-friendly communities that came up, because JAWA's even got their foot in housing issues as well, and I just wanted to really, call that out, because it's something that you don't normally consider JAWA being involved with.
And thank you. As part of the Alliance, that's been a wonderful opportunity for AARP to give us some one-on-one, and one of those was the webinar on housing, and there'll be another one on transportation. And so we are lucky to be able to expand, not where we provide service, but where we advocate. So thank you for bringing that up.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to Piedmont. Dr. Jean, how are you doing today?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and introduce myself and to share just how excited I am to serve as Piedmont Virginia Community College's 6th president. As you may know, I come from experience at 3 comprehensive community colleges, 2 in Maryland, 1 in Colorado, and I joined Piedmont Virginia Community College this July. My father served in the Navy for 30 years, so Virginia has always been home, and my mother and one of my sisters still live in the area. It's really exciting to join Piedmont Virginia Community College during the college's 50th anniversary, because we have a chance to come in as a new leader to reflect and celebrate with the community and learn more about the impact of the college in the community and the impact in the lives that it serves. The college was founded on the belief of access and the power of education, and when we talk about being a comprehensive community college, we really see ourselves playing a role in that early college experience, playing a role in lives of students who want to earn a degree or credential or to transfer to a 4-year university or college, and also to live and work in the communities that they serve. And so many people contributed to who we are today. As part of my first 6 months here at Piedmont, Virginia, I've had a chance to really get out into the community and meet people that have been impacted by the college and the power of education. What I'm most excited about is when I think about our history, so far we've had 250,000 students who've attended the college, and over 17,000 students have earned degrees or credentials. And in addition to that, many come to us to retool and retrain as part of our workforce services. We're extremely proud of our partnerships, and we serve 6 different counties in the city of Charlottesville. And last year, we had almost 7,000 students attending the college, and 238 of those students were from Nelson County. And in 2022, we had over 1,000 students graduate, and more than 4% of those students were from Nelson County. We're looking forward to continuing to expand outreach and opportunities for those who wish to pursue a degree or credential. We also really value our partnerships with our public schools, and we know that many of the high school students who enroll with dual enrollment have that early college experience and can take classes to earn credits that encourage them to matriculate to finish what they start. During this time frame, we had 44 students at Nelson County High School earning college credit and actually saved their families over $41,000 in tuition. We believe that we are an economic engine for the communities that we serve and take great pride in our work with workforce services and continue to find ways to meet business and industry needs through credentialing and workforce services. We'll continue to build on our successes as we look towards the next 50 years of impact. And one evidence of that is the construction of one of our new buildings, Advanced Technology and Student Success Center. And this building was made possible in part through your local contributions and commitment to the college of almost $40,000. So as a new leader to the region, I've been going out on discovery tours and really asking questions about what matters, what impact has PVCC had, what are our strengths, what are our opportunities, and how can we be better partners to serve the needs of the communities that we serve. And as part of that, we've been out asking questions, and I hope you'll take advantage of completing the survey so I can find out more about Nelson County and how we can continue to serve the region as well. And then finally, we are embarking on our next strategic plan. And as part of that, we are engaging in the local communities to find out more about how we can continue to serve through 2027 and into the future as well. So I look forward to opportunities to engage in Nelson County, learning more about the region, and being part of the community where I live and serve. So thank you so much for that opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much, and that is like efficiency on a 20 slide thing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Can I just have a quick question? If you went to the other side, what can we do? Can you think of anything, what we could do as the board to help you?
What I think is really important is as we're learning and listening, I want to make sure that we have the programs, the portfolio of programs that really serves community need. So if there's need for training or programming, or if we can do a better job in the public schools, or with, just lifelong learning, I would really appreciate knowing what those opportunities are so we can consider how we can meet those needs. And then please invite me here to Nelson County to events, and I look forward to being part of the community.
I would love to get a tour. I hadn't been there for a long time. Of course, community college has a rich history with me. And as a fun fact, this first round of politics in my life, I ran for SGA president at CVCC. It was vicious. I got more votes for SGA president than I did board of supervisor. Flash forward a few years ahead. It must have been the free cookies that I handed out, but I really appreciate what you guys do. And the relationship with the school system is a critical piece, and dual enrollment as of course, Nelson, with the digital age that we have, and answering what does a work from home society look like and what are the degrees that we need. We had a career and technical education advisory meeting the other day, and that was a very interesting discussion as rural communities like ours now become digitized. So, and you're going to hear a presentation. I would suggest you hear it from Firefly in the back.
And I will stay for that. So again, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to what we can do together.
Thank you so much, Gina. All right, and for those who are here for the special use permit, we're going to move on section B, item G, we're going to move that to the top so y'all don't have to sit through the next 2 hours that it'll take to resolve that entire section. So please don't feel like, and then after we get through this presentation, and this special use permit will be right after Firefly does their presentation. So that way you guys feel like we ain't going to make you sit through another 2 hours. All right. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Board. It's great to be here. My name is Galen Creekmore. I work for both Central Virginia Electric and Firefly Fiber Broadband. In my role, I'm the key accounts representative and perform government affairs duties. I have with me today also our manager of communications and member services, Melissa Gay. And there's certainly many. There we go. There's certainly, as you know, many facets and details to infrastructure building. So today I will not go into all those details, but I stand as a resource to you if you ever have any of those questions and want to get down in the weeds. I'm going to give you a high-level overview today of where the project stands as we approach year end. And the last update I brought to you a few months ago, we talked about some of the hurdles we were facing in getting the make-ready work performed on Appalachian Power side of the infrastructure and the railroad crossings. So I want to start with an update on some of the wins and some of the successes we've got over those hurdles. We have now finally completed the 3 railroad crossings that we have been waiting on in Arrington, Shipman, and a secondary crossing in Shipman at Docks Lane. So we had actually 2 crossings in Shipman on 56 and at Docks Lane. Last week, we completed the last one of those. As a refresher, we worked with Norfolk Southern Railroad for a year and a half on the 56 crossing, about 9 months. We waited for the Arrington crossing, and about 6 to 7 months on the Docks Lane crossing. We finally got them all done. It became a situation where quite literally the folks on the east side of the tracks were not going to get connected until we work something out. And I think we have their attention. Quick note, part of my work is I'm going to be working with our statewide Association of Electric Co-ops to introduce legislation in Richmond this year that will hold these folks accountable for getting the permitting process streamlined. And each one of those crossings, just to submit the permit, costs us over $15,000 for each of those crossings. And that's a process that is impeding rural broadband across the state. So a little snapshot that that was a hurdle, but we're moving past it. Here's a quick overview on, as you know, we talk in terms of project areas divided by electric utility because of the partner utility there. The CVC system, the fiber construction, mainline fiber construction is complete really in all these areas. Our last areas were Piney River, Massey's Mill, and Schuyler. As of last week, we finished the last bit of mainline fiber in Massey's Mill. We were actually connecting on the completed portions back on the front end of that fiber. So we're actually connecting folks in Massey's Mill and have now completed the mainline fiber there. So the folks in Massey's Mill area are seeing drop construction right now. They'll see vibratory plows going through the yard, making the drop to the homes and connections. We actually have some already connected, and those will continue to roll in. So we have active accounts there, and they're just continuing every day rolling in now. Schuyler, same situation. We have splicing and service drops going in right now in the Schuyler area. The larger piece, I won't have you read all those because there's another map here. This is just a map of all those listed areas. Appalachian power areas are really in a better place than I thought we would be come year end. We were not immune to the labor shortages and the delays on trying to work on someone else's system in Appalachian Power and get that right away and poles ready for us to come in and do fiber. And we have conquered those hurdles, moved past those, and each one of these areas is in fiber construction now, meaning it's in our hands and we're not waiting for a separate partner to get those poles ready. And we like it when stuff is turned over. The only area that we're still waiting to release to construction is that Salem Road, the Glade Road up towards Rockfish. We're expecting that in the next week or two. They're finalizing the construction map. So 99% of this whole map, especially in the Appalachian Power areas, is under construction. Obviously, the only areas that are not completed on the CVC side, as I said, Massey's Mill, we're finishing work, and Schuyler, we're finishing work. Obviously, those CARES areas, as you know, are already in service. And now, essentially, all the orange areas on the right-hand side of the map had to be lit up with the fiber that was coming across 56. And now we finally have that fiber crossing, which is why that was so important. There's the Rockfish, Schuyler, and Salem Glade Road will be lit from CVC's Schuyler fiber hut. So not all of those, but many of those we're waiting on 56 crossing. The good news is we didn't have to wait on the 56 crossing to complete a lot of important work, which is why we're a little even though we had delays, we're a little farther ahead than I thought we would be because we were able to bring in artificial light to hook up. You know, this is laser light we're splicing with this fiber work. So you bring in an artificial laser, and we were able to start that splicing even before we got the railroad crossings. So now that we have the railroad crossing, now we can focus on finishing the fiber and getting the service drops. And we already have a lot of whatever work we could complete. We already had that started.
Quick question.
Yes.
Can you tell us the acronyms for CARES and RISE, just so we all know?
Yes, our RISE project is our Regional Internet Service Expansion Project. So the RISE area is actually part of a 13 county project, is our RISE project that will, over the next 3 years, connect. We'll have around 50,000 passings, $300 million project involving partners of CBC, Appalachian Power, Rappahannock Electric, Dominion Energy, and that was funded primarily through a VATI grant through the state last year, in which we partnered with Thomas Jefferson Planning District, who was the lead applicant. I actually saw Christine Jacobs in the room today. So all those partners brought together. Nelson is in the front end of this because of a commitment made by the Board of Supervisors and the Broadband Authority to put up matching dollars even prior to receiving the VATI grant to allow us to begin work in these off-system bills, which off-system in Nelson means Appalachian, and a little bit of Dominion at the top of Acton Mountain. So that's what RISE looks like in Nelson, is really the off-system. Off-system, us meaning outside of CBC, where are we going from CBC? Well, these areas are well underway in Nelson. And just to reiterate, our first goal when we first came to the board is at the end of this RISE project, every single home that has electric service will have fiber to the home internet service. And that was our plan from day one, and we are very close. At the end of Q1 of next year, we're going to have all of the CBC accounts connected, and within, by spring we'll have CBC completed. The APCO areas will lag by about probably 6 weeks, based on just the labor we have to complete CBC connections and moving into Appalachian. Let me reiterate, I did not say, and what I'm not saying is we're going to complete all of CBC and then move into the Appalachian Power. They're going to be connected concurrently, but to complete these, there's going to be a lag so by the end of Q1 2023, we're going to see nearly all of these connections made, and some folks in Appalachian Power areas will even be connected this year, but the majority will be into early 2023.
And what does CARES stand for?
That was a federal legislation. That was COVID money, basically, in a federal COVID relief package that was sent.
Yeah, we did that. That was early COVID.
Yeah, that was early COVID. That was actually direct, call it stimulus or COVID money sent to the counties, and the counties then were able to turn around and use that towards projects that benefited the impacts of COVID. Number one being telemedicine and telework. So that's why those areas were able. Essentially, that was, if I recall correctly, we had about, the money was released about 3 months before year end of 2020. And the county came to Firefly and said, we have to expend this money before year end. What can you build before year end to expend the money? So that's why those projects were built a little earlier.
Thank you.
Via that federal legislation.
Well, how do you alert individual households ready to connect?
Fantastic question. Let me start first with the map you're seeing right now is on our website. It was just a screen grab from the website. So let me start first with the resources that any citizen can find the status of their project on our website. If you go to fireflyva.com, you go under Search Your County under the Projects tab, you'll see a Nelson County logo. You click that logo and it will give you this map and then a separate breakdown and status tracker of every single one of these labeled project areas. Secondly, there will be at least 6 direct mailings and communications sent to each household, letting them know where they are in the process. That starts with a data collection letter, letting them know that folks will be out in front of their home looking at the poles, and then a make-ready construction letter, a fiber construction letter, a alert that a pre-registration and a town hall alert that in every one of these areas, we host a virtual town hall that lets people know, okay, we're coming time, you need to get registered because we will only build drops to pre-registered or registered addresses. While we're in the area, that's free of charge. So we have direct mailings, if we have an email for that person, we email them. And then, of course, the virtual town halls.
The individual will know when it's time.
Absolutely.
And he will be able to contact you. You're not going to miss.
That's right. That's right. And when contractors in the area, and if they're in a say a more densely populated area and working, we actually have door hangers. Well, they'll go up and hang a door hanger, letting them know that contractors in the area and maybe working, in front of their home. So anything short of smoke signals we're using.
Any other questions?
Nelson County is in a great spot, so thank you all, and thanks for your partnership.
Thank you. All right, we are moving item G, special use permit number 717 to the top of new and unfinished business, so that folks don't have to wait any longer. And then probably after that, we'll take a quick recess. So, Dylan.
All right, so you all are familiar with this application, so I won't go over the entirety of the staff report again. If there's anything you want to be refreshed on or have any questions, of course, stop me and let me know. I'll just go over some of the additional information. At your meeting on November 7th, you held a public hearing and deferred the application to your meeting today. There was discussion regarding the historical designation of the existing house, which is located within the South Rockfish Rural Historic District. Staff consulted with Mike Pulis of the Department of Historic Resources, who indicated that although there are tax credits available, there are no local, state, or federal restrictions or requirements, and the property owner has authority to make decisions for the property. An asbestos inspection report by TJL Environmental Health Consultants completed in 2020 was submitted. As requested by the board, it is attached with your report, as well as a structural assessment report by master's engineers and designers, which was completed in 2022. Also with your report were public comments received by email following your November 7th meeting. At the time that the staff report was submitted, from November 7th to December 7th, and this is a correction on your report, there were 24 in favor and 4 opposed. You also have the public comments received prior to the meeting from adjoining owners in opposition. And as of 12 noon today, in total, all public comments received were 61 in favor and 7 opposed. The owners also submitted an updated site plan showing a staggered double row of evergreen plantings along the property line right here, as well as an example of the proposed architectural design of the proposed restaurant structure. Now, instead of barn style, they're describing this as traditional classic farmhouse using salvageable materials from the existing house. Back to the site plan regarding parking, the public floor area is 1,180 square feet. for the drive-through restaurant requirements in the parking ordinance. It's 2 spaces per every 100 square feet of public floor area with a minimum of 15. So that's 24 required parking spaces, and they're providing 36. Regarding water and sewer connections, as a private utility, Aqua assesses each application on an individual basis, and there's no requirement to connect for either the potential customer or for Aqua. Here's an aerial view of the property. Location is right here on the corner. Here's a zoning map. The yellows are R1 residential. All this salmon color is wintergreen. Red is business, and everything else is agricultural. So these are the conditions recommended by the Planning Commission. The vote was 3-3, and therefore the motion failed, so it did not come to you with either favorable or unfavorable recommendation. Planning Commission conditions were hours of operation limited to 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. daily. Landscape screening of the parking lot area from neighboring properties required. Lighting shall be directional and glare shielded to prevent light pollution. And the project shall be served by sewer through Aqua Virginia and shall not be served by private septic. Additionally, if approved, the applicant is requesting 2 years to begin construction. Typically, with a special use permit, there is 1 year requirement to diligently pursue construction of the project. Other information regarding the sporting goods store that has been mentioned, I pulled some files and researched that. That application was a rezoning from R1 to A1 of, I believe, these 2 parcels. That was in 2015, and in review of the meeting minutes, the issues were that, or the concerns were that the commercial entrance location was on Route 151. The scale of the proposed building was inappropriate for the area at 8,000 square feet, and with the R1 zoning on either side of the subject parcels. And the vote on that was 2-2 with 1 abstention. Regarding ownership of the parcel, the zoning ordinance allows property owners, contract purchaser with owner's consent, or the owner's agent to sign. Mr. Campbell, as a minority partner with no decision-making authority, allowed the 2 listed owner applicants to act as the agent for this application. And as a reminder, the board shall act within 1 year of official submission of the application, which would be end of September 2023. And there's your criteria for special use permit review, as always. The applicants are here, of course. If you have any questions, I'm available as well.
Any questions for Dylan before we ask the applicant to speak?
These conditions, which were not imposed because the motion was defeated, right?
Well, we have to decide that.
Yeah, but how long do they stay enforced?
In perpetuity with the special use permit application. So the conditions follow the property even if it were to change ownership someday.
And we can make those conditions.
Absolutely, yes. Conditions can be imposed by the board that would address impacts on the community or neighboring properties.
Could they be changed if they came back to the board or something?
They could be changed if they came back and requested a change.
Any questions for Dylan before we? No. All right. Y'all folks come up.
I'm John Washburn, and 10808 Patrick Henry Highway, Roseville. Been in and around Nelson County for 37 years.
Scott DeFusco, 24 Bornell Lane in Millie's Fort. Been affiliated through houses I've owned in the county for 20 years, but now full-time resident. So I'm full-time resident.
I met Scott at Bull Rock, and over the 12 years of me meeting people at Bull Rock, probably thousands, including Mrs. Dodd was at Bull Rock about 3 weeks ago. It was nice to see her there. And, but of all the people I met, I found Scott to be of the highest character. And there've been some comments about, good ones about our character. But I just want to say that my background was in education. That was what I cared about most in my life. I got a master's in education. Then I got a master's in educational psychology. I wrote a mental health program for young children, which I administered all through Virginia. And I taught teachers on sensitivity training. So I'd just like to say that we're not two corporate guys here. We are very sensitive guys, and it's just the truth. You don't do something like that for 15 years without being sensitive. And my point is that we intend to be good neighbors to Ms. Dodd. Is that okay to say that? Yeah.
Anything about the project specifically?
Well, yeah, well, okay, about the project. Well, I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, well, one of the changes that Dylan highlighted is really important, through feedback from a couple of the supervisors, Supervisor Reed and Barton, and some communication with citizens. We heard loud and clear that there was a disconnect with the rustic barn style that we were proposing, and that had us thinking back to the house that's on there now and changing that to what we call a traditional classic farmhouse. So this actually, we can replicate that exactly. That is our goal. We've just fallen in love with this design, this style. Feel it accomplishes several things. It fits in with the aesthetic of the community better. It allows us to take materials from the existing house and incorporate them into the design. Everything from doors and trim and other architectural elements. So we're excited about that and just really appreciate the feedback we received because it got us to a better place. That if this passes, we're really excited about it.
I just want to second that we took it very seriously what Mr. Reed, Mr. Barton said. I remember that we talked about their exact words and we scoured through hundreds of buildings and farmhouses that seemed to fit the bill. This one actually had a barn behind it. It just seemed to fit because it's just not pretentious. But you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But I think that looks almost residential, which it is.
And one more clarifying point for some comments that were made. We never have seen this as a fast food restaurant ever. The main driver of the drive-through, which I think is going to be a small subset of the business, was actually our conversations were all about having a place that people who work locally or in the region when they're on their way to work would have an option to stop and get some good food, home cooked style with good coffee. But our focus has always been more on the main building. So I just we don't view it as fast food at all.
And it won't have the optic of a drive-through because the drive around is parallel to the 8-aisle road, and we're going to landscape that for several reasons. One is to amend the visual aspect of the wrecked car yard across the road. So we're going to do that, but it will not have an optic of a drive-through.
All right. Does the board have any questions of the applicants?
Yeah, I do. In your plan, you don't specify, or correct me if I'm wrong, what the seated part of the restaurant might look like and how many seats there might be. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, we have to go through a redesign based on this new footprint. We anticipate the same level of square footage that I provided to Dylan that you mentioned, around 1,100 square feet of public area on the inside, and still have availability for seating on the exterior wraparound porch. And also there is a sunroom in this design off the back that will also have some seating. And so we still anticipate the same number, just over about 50, maybe 60 people in those public seating areas.
Any other questions for the applicant?
How do you intend to get water and sewage?
I've been looking into options on that. I have one right here. Rock has just been researching for a year, different options for greenfield treatment. And there are a lot of options, but one they have, I have it right here, is just absolutely excellent. It's all above ground, but it's not obtrusive. But that's one option, but we're open to there are a lot of options. We did talk to engineering about that, and they gave us all of the best people to talk to about it.
One of the conditions that was up on the board was that going underneath 151 would be conditioned for
Private septic.
But is that eliminated? Are you going to eliminate that part of it?
That would be up to the board, but if the board shows, the board could eliminate that condition. Project shall be served by a sewer through aquifer. We have the ability to omit that condition completely, and that would allow them to do exactly what he just mentioned.
Are we allowed to say, to protect the neighborhood and protect further?
You want to put that as a condition?
Can I put it as a condition? Can we put it as a condition for them? We can put it for them.
To allow them to have the do a on-site sewer treatment, we don't need to put an explanation. We could just eliminate number 4, which requires them to do aqua.
My concern is further development. One of my concerns is further development on that side of the highway, which is part of the comprehensive plan, was that we remain residential. So if this project does go under the road, that would open up the whole area to that. Yeah.
That's one of the comments that I wanted to make. And I'm no engineer by any means, but in my experience in construction involving water and sewer lines and having to bore under the road, the company doesn't bore a main line. They have a main line that runs beside the road on the west side of 151. What they would be boring, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not an engineer, but what I have seen is they bore a service line to that one location. They're not boring a main line that then allows expansion. So let's say that 10 years down the road, someone else wanted to put something on the east side of 151. They wouldn't split off of the line that's bored for Belties. They would have to come off of the main and bore under the road again. So they're T connections, not, they don't come off of that.
But I'm with you. I mean, I don't know for certain.
Yeah, that's my understanding of how it works.
I mean, and I can understand the concerns as it relates to aqua coming on that side. We may find ourselves in a situation where we don't really have much authority on that piece. We could have the authority to eliminate them from requiring them to get aqua Virginia. But I don't think we necessarily have the ability to tell people they can't get it across the street.
And I don't necessarily support requiring them to have aqua Virginia.
Yeah.
Because if they could do it without having to do that.
It sounds like
I
they're
think that would take care of two
Why don't we
things.
eliminate that one?
But I think that would calm any anxiety
Sure, if we eliminate that before.
for, you know,
Opening it up.
Yeah.
if that did not happen in this particular case.
Just to respond to Mr. Rutherford's comment, Dylan, we do have the authority to keep number 4 in place if we would so decide.
Yeah.
That's correct.
We do.
Yeah.
Based on the criteria,
Yeah.
from letters.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm gonna you're right, Aqua Virginia is not looking to expand the main service across. It's just a service connection to serve this individual household. If anybody else further down, obviously they would have to look at Aqua to be able to make connection to the different one. And that's all depending on them and their capacity to handle additional.
Right, okay. Well, I agree with everyone in eliminating number 4. If we do it.
Well, before we start talking about conditions, I've got.
You guys have to go.
I got.
Do you want them to sit down or you can ask some questions?
I don't have any more questions.
Y'all have a seat. All right, Mr. Reed.
Okay. So, first of all, thanks to everybody that commented on this. I'm really grateful that a lot of people in my district step up and let us know their opinions and how they feel about things. And we got, as you can see, we got a lot of comments on this. I'm really grateful to all of you, especially those that showed up for the first time. And thanks to the applicants for being so thoughtful about how, and responsive to the things that we've talked about. We have guides in place for what we're supposed to guide our decisions. And the things that we have in place are things like the current comp plan, the advice of our planning commission, and designations that the county may have put on particular areas. In this case, we have, this is in the Rockfish South Historical District, and so it just is it's given that if it is a historic district, that there is something to that, whether the structures themselves are considered historic, whether the district is considered historic, and what, and that the decisions that we make should at least consider that as significant. The current comprehensive plan, which does not encourage development, commercial development on the other side of 151, that's something that's in process, or that is in place. Planning Commission did not vote in favor to support this, and so it came to us without their support. The comments that Mr. Hoshner made, who is the planning commissioner for the district where this is, were that it violated 3 of the 4 standards and criteria for special use permit review, and I'll just read them. The use should not tend to change the character and established pattern of development in the area in which it proposes to locate. The use should be in harmony with the uses permitted by right in the zoning district and shall not affect adversely the use of neighboring property. And that the proposed use would not result in destruction, loss, or damage of any feature determined to be of significant ecological, scenic, or historic importance. So whether you agree with them or not, that was the statement that Mr. Hausner made, and the Planning Commission did not recommend approval. So those are the things that we have. We have the public comment, which of course is significant. And then we have the thoughts of the board. So whether having a restaurant in an A1 district is something clearly that's not allowed by right. And also having something that is a drive-through in addition to being a sit-down restaurant. There's no counties that I'm familiar with that by right allow drive-through restaurants in areas. And I know for a fact, because we had some comments to that from some of the public, that Albemarle County is not. But the drive-through is very important to me, because the drive-through would share an entrance with an A1 industrial entrance, which has access for trucks, tractor trailers, cow trailers, and other things. And so the entrance and the drive-through would be sharing that access. That to me seems like a recipe for difficulties, if not problems. So I want to bring that up. And of course, VDOT did approve this entrance being shared. It's not on 151, it's on a side road. But as we know from past special use permits, most recently the Mark Addy, is that VDOT, if there was an increase in traffic on the 151 corridor because the entrance was there, it would be considered in the VDOT application. If it's on one of the arteries, it's not. Not that it changes the number of car traffic and car travel that would be there. It just doesn't trick them into having to consider that as part of the application. The fourth condition about having Agua provide the sewer service, Ms. Prue, who's the Planning Commission member from the North District, spoke in favor of it, and that led to that being one of the conditions. The relationship with Agua Virginia is a big concern to me. I sit on the Nelson County Service Authority, and the Service Authority takes very seriously, of course, its service, and I know Agua does as well in terms of serving the residents that it serves. In the back of my mind in all this is that whenever Agua Virginia expands its reach in the county, it at the same time reduces the number of, say, businesses, individuals, or the ability of the county to be able to advocate for the sewer and water services in the area. And Agua Virginia has done a credible job at serving residents of Stony Creek and the other businesses along 151 in Ellisford. They also provide sewer and water in Lake Monticello, for instance. But they are, they're corporate. Their interests lie more highly with their corporation and their shareholders than they do their services, by definition. The Service Authority has a different approach, not being for profit. And, for instance, the Service Authority, has absorbed a huge amount of leverage, a huge amount of debt to be able to upgrade sewer and water in the Mountain Resort area. And that's really significant, and I got a really positive input from the folks on the mountain about that, and work with people at Wintergreen. The two other things that are really significant about this have to do with timing. And I just want to say up front that if we chose to not take action tonight or today, then we would have another 10 months, I guess, to act upon it. The special use permit would be in effect, I guess, or the application would be in effect for another 10 months. But we're in the throes of a comprehensive plan. And as I look through the comments in the comprehensive plan, they appear to be fairly overwhelmingly in support of limiting growth in the 151 corridor and in Ellisford. Now, the response to this has been, I would say, perhaps overwhelming in terms of individuals that have turned out to be in favor of this. So I've got to weigh all that, but to open up development by being first in an area that doesn't have any commercial development at this point, and that proposals for them previously have not carried the day, it causes me to look at this a lot more closely, because I would hate to have this application set a protocol for doing an end around about what might be in that comprehensive plan. Now, I can't say for sure what's going to be in the plan or how that's going to play out in the future, but clearly, if you start doing development in an area that was not positively encouraged in the current comprehensive plan, it would be very difficult to turn back that clock once we set it, if we do that today. And the other piece of the equation is that Mr. Harvey has not been able to be a part of these discussions, which is problematic. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way it is. And so it does put us in a position to where we don't have the benefit of his input. People haven't had the benefit of being able to discuss with him about his opinions on this project. And that is a concern for me as well. If you put all those things together, for me, I'm not in favor of voting in favor of this today. There might be, not that this project does not have value. I totally acknowledge that it does have value and would have value in the community. Don't know that it's appropriate. Don't know that it's the right thing from my perspective. So it's possible that we could defer this and not take action on it at this point. That does mean that we would be in this position again. More public comment, taking the additional time. You know, I think that's valuable. I don't think it's a bad thing to take your time on something that you're not sure of. And I don't think it's a bad idea to see the direction that the comprehensive plan moves in the next 10 months, because I don't know what direction it's going to go in, and I can't, if I was to look at the public comment piece, you know, I might come up with one opinion, but the tone of the Planning Commission, who will be working on that as well in the Planning Department, and the tone of the Board of Supervisors at that point, you know, I just don't know. And that ambiguity, because it does have an opportunity here to put something in place that might prevent an opportunity to honor the past comprehensive plan, the historic district, patterns of development, the zoning of the property in question. Seems like that I wouldn't be able to vote in favor.
All right, so I got Ernie's take. Mr. Parr, do you have any comment? Well, Mr. Parr, do you have any further comment?
I would like you to put up on the thing again, the conditions.
Yeah. And if there's one thing that, can I talk for a second?
Yeah.
So, you know, and Mr. Reed, I want to respond to obviously the concerns of having North District representation to be present. And of course, this board has made an effort for that to happen today. You know, I don't think I'd be necessarily in favor of putting these folks in a 10-month limbo while we do the comprehensive plan, which is also going to go on for quite a while. I imagine it's going to take over a year still. I think we can address some of the concerns today with the conditions that were presented. I certainly would be in favor of that, I believe it was vegetation or evergreens to be put between Miss Dodd's place and that parking lot. I think that's critical. I think it also, the elimination of point 4, which is, would omit the requirement for them to hook up to Aqua Virginia to alleviate some of the concern of ease of development across the street. You know, I think those two particular items, and also maintaining condition 1 and 3. Do we need to change condition number 2 to reflect what I just said in terms of vegetation between Ms. Dodd's house and the property?
You could change it to landscape screening in compliance with site plan or concept plan dated X.
Okay.
That shows the.
So we could reference today's large buffer zone for.
You could do that.
Okay. All right. Mr. Bartlett.
You say that that would have to be in place before business could begin operating?
So when they finalize their site plan, all of that is part of the site development. And so, for example, if they did open the restaurant and they did not comply with the screening requirement prior to the opening, the board can revoke the special use permit. So there's a backup in place in case the conditions are not being met.
I'm still unclear. I know about number 4, that are you committed to not hooking up, or?
Yeah, we were drafting off of the planning commission on that one.
The planning.
So that was put on by someone at the planning commission, not by us. So we've already been investigating alternatives, doing that alternative on the site.
The Aqua Virginia piece was a planning commission idea, more so than my understanding is more so than it was the applicant. That was originated from the planning commission. It was Ms. Prue. Ms. Prue was the one who recommended that piece. So omitting that one, I think, would allow them to do their private sector piece.
A lot of the opposition had to do with the drive-through business. Is that negotiable?
Yeah, the drive-through is not the critical dependency for the project. There's a lot of value that goes beyond the drive-through, and we've heard the feedback and take that seriously. So I would view that, unless John feels otherwise, as a critical dependency for the project.
That could be a condition as well. You could add, the removal of the drive-through, something along those lines.
Well, I wouldn't want that. Because I studied this.
All right, if you guys are going to talk, you got to come over here.
Well, I would rather not delete that. We want to keep the lights on in this. Running a restaurant is very difficult. Drive-through element adds 22% more profit. But as I said earlier, the optics of the drive-through, I mean, we have a drive-through bank. I think we have 2 drive-through banks. It's screened, and that screening also will obscure the wrecked cars across the street. So, and again, it won't be on 151, but again, on 151, the drive-through at the bank, nobody ever said, look at the drive-through. What's your view?
Yeah, I agree with what John's saying. I just want to be careful to hear what the public has said about drive-through. And that's what the engineering work would be done to make sure that the traffic flow, we don't want to do anything that's disruptive. I mean, that's one thing that's clear in all the discussions that John and I have had, whether it's with Mrs. Dodd's house or the flow of traffic or pedestrian traffic. We're going to be careful about that. We're passionate about it. So
Well, one last thing, Mr. Barton, is that several tradespeople have told me that they want it because they don't want to stop and go sit in a restaurant.
No, I know. You know, I don't have the answer to make it easy for someone to get breakfast. The landscape screening business on this side, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's a double row staggered evergreen, represented right there. And those would be mature on initial installation, and that would be at the beginning of the project. We're not gonna wait on that.
And we won't let them go. I mean, if you look at Bull Rock and the landscaping, I mean, we have 1,700 reviews at Bull Rock, and they say the landscaping is more than the alcohol. So we won't let them die. We'll put an irrigation right along there with it.
Yeah. It's important that it's well done to protect the value. If you're gonna do this project, protect the value of this guy's house. And, you know, I'm a questioning integrity, but I want to make sure there's a way to make sure that this is gonna happen.
So if it's in the condition, Dylan, they would have to perform that vegetation barrier for final approval, essentially.
Yes.
Otherwise, our mechanism is revoking their special use permit. Okay. And I think what I would advocate for with that number 2 condition is, as Dylan said, which is a little bit firmer. Maybe verbalize that one more time, Dylan. Yeah, you're writing that down. Okay.
The other question I have is, Aqua moving across the road doesn't set a precedent if they cannot access other properties from that?
I don't know.
I
don't think we have any control over who Aqua does.
What do you mean? They can't?
Well, they can. Yeah, I mean, even if it's like Dodd's house, let's say Dodd's house wanted to get Aqua.
Anyone can be served by Aqua if they can, if they choose to. So,
But it will be a connection between what they would do across the road and other development.
my understanding is that anyone that wanted a connection at this point would need to go under there as well, but I don't at all know what the conditions would be by which this would connect with the Agua line in terms of, size, dimension, potential.
I just broadest connection for this one residence only.
And if that's the case, then it would also allow subsequent applicants, should they choose to replicate that.
But they have to go through the same process.
They would.
They would have to go through the same process through Aqua, not through us.
Well, they'd have to show that they can provide sewer and water to whatever it is they're proposing. And how they get it, who they get it from is kind of up to them, and they should put a condition.
Well, I know I must be posing the question in a bad way. Are we setting precedent?
It kind of depends on how you look at it, There are no, there's no restaurants, there's no commercial things going on from 8 Dial Road north on the east side of the property. Does that set a precedent? It's subjective.
I mean, to alleviate the stress with this getting Aqua, eliminating number 4 is an easy step. They have indicated that they want to do private sewer. So that there, as opposed to anyone else on that road, can we stop them? I don't really know. And we probably, even if, like, for example, if a house on that side of the road wanted to get it, whether we would be engaged to even be in the know on that is the question.
If for some reason we thought that any kind of sewer and water was gonna be problematic there, we could do conditions.
Yeah.
But, and we could, of course, use that as justification to deny it. We decided that was what we wanted to do. We could do that, but it's the will of the board.
So, Skip, if I could echo some of what I've kind of collectively gathered. I think condition number 1, limited to 7 to 2 p.m. daily, is one. The second one, Dylan has kind of what we just talked about, verbalized landscape screening in conformance with the site plan dated 11/2/22 shall be mature evergreen at the time of planning prior to the opening of the restaurant. 3, we should keep that. Lighting shall be directional, glare shielded to prevent light pollution on adjoining roadways, properties, and dark night sky. And then the omission of number 4. Does that sound like it collectively gets what you're looking for?
Well, nothing gets.
No, nothing ever gets everything, but.
Yeah, okay.
I would be supportive of what I just said with those conditions added and adjusted, and the 4th one omitted.
One thing I'll also add is that the board did unanimously approve a resolution of support to designate Nellysport an urban development area. So if the development aspect of this area is part of the concern, I would recommend maybe reviewing that resolution.
All right, so what does the board want to do? Do we want to approve with the conditions as presented?
I'm willing.
All right, Mr. Barton, you're willing to make a motion to approve with the conditions as laid out?
I'll vote for it.
Well, I need to verbalize that. So, number 1, hours of operations shall be limited to 7 to 2 p.m. Item 2.
So many people have, the site plan, the building, you're willing, if this is the reality of what you're gonna create, I can think of a lot of worse things to be there. I don't like, extending the park, but I think this is legitimate. I think this would be probably nice for the community. Not just people from Wintergreen. Like tradesmen, that was not illegitimate. I thought tradesmen like.
All right, I'd still like you to read these conditions.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Mr. Chair, also a reminder, they're requesting a 2-year period.
Okay,
If you want to add that as a condition.
We gave them a 1 year from the planning commission.
1 year is what it normally is.
Right, okay. Let's get through these ones and then, I think you guys have indicated that you can begin some kind of construction within a 1 year time frame.
The 2-year with teacher, but we won't.
At least the lands.
Yeah, I think you guys 1 year would be fine. I think they'll suffice. Everyone else is getting a 1 year right now, and they can meet some conditions that potentially could. So, condition number 1, hours of operation shall be limited to 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. daily. Condition 2, I don't know why you wrote 3.
I don't.
All right, got it. Condition 2 is landscape screening in conformance with site plan dated 11/2/22 shall be mature evergreen at the time of planning prior to the opening of restaurant. Number 3, lighting shall be directional, glare shielded to prevent light pollution onto adjoining roadways, properties in the dark night sky. And we will omit condition number 4. Does that sound right, Mr. Barton? That is Mr. Barton's motion. Do we have support? Second. Second from Mr. Parr. Any further discussion
for the vote? Hearing no discussion, if we could do a roll call vote. Amanda?
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Alford?
Yes. Okay. Special use permit passes with those conditions. We are going to take a 5-minute recess.